What's going on, everyone, and welcome into Plizont's podcast, filled to the brim with glitchy analysis and freezing cold takes so cold that they're boiling hot. Today's podcast is proudly sponsored by Hungry Howie's Baton Rouge. Guys, check out their website for takeout deals and delivery deals. Right now, they've got an awesome special. Get a large one-topping pizza for just $9.99. Thank you so much to Hungry Howie's Baton Rouge. Guys, today, we're talking NBA playoffs. Best time of the year if you're an NBA fan. We're going through every single game in review, and then we are bringing back an absolute classic, a special, a Plizont guarantee. Let's go ahead and get into the playoffs. We're going to get a little bit of news, and then we're going to get into that special. First up, we're talking 76ers versus Nets. Now, I'm going to play the clip right here. I called it something about Mikal Bridges. I'm a big buyer of Mikal Bridges. I think after this series, it's going to come out that he is a star. He will be the second best player in this series. Mikal Bridges was the second best player on the floor. He led the entire game in scoring, both 76ers and Nets. But look, all around, 76ers, massive effort. They had a rout in this game. They had 7 players with 4 rebounds or more, 3 players with 2 steals or more, 5 players in double figures, and as a team, they only had 8 turnovers. This is not going to be a very competitive series. I hate to say it, I really like this Nets team, but to me, Mikal Bridges has not reached superstar mode in order to get that next level of gameplay. I don't think the 76ers are going to have any problem. To me, maybe the Nets get one, 76ers still in 5. Next up, we're talking Celtics versus Hawks. Ice tray the game, freezing cold. 5 for 18, 5 turnovers, and he's not a defensive stopper. So he didn't make up for it on the defensive end. The Celtics just have too many guys to throw at Trae Young. They've got Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, even Derek White got in on the action of locking Trae Young up. Now, will he go 5 for 18 in Game 2? Probably not, but I am not buying that this Hawks team is going to be the least bit competitive in this series. I'm changing my prediction. Celtics in 4, their depth is just too much. Grant Williams and Blake Griffin didn't even play in Game 1, and the Celtics easily beat the Hawks. They took almost the entire fourth quarter off, and they still won by 13. So Celtics in 4, that's my prediction. We're riding all the way to the finals with the Celtics. Third on our list, Knicks versus Cavs. I'm going to go ahead and put another clip right up here. Last but not least, we've got the best matchup in the first round of the playoffs, both East and West. Cavaliers versus the New York Knicks. This is going to be the best series in the first round. The game was phenomenal. It did not disappoint whatsoever. Look, basically from the jump, Donovan Mitchell was on a carry job. And one thing that I did not see before this series started that I saw after the end of the first game is the bench gap between the Knicks and the Cavs. Could not name you an important bench player from the Cavs that had a really good game. The Knicks had 4 bench players that were in the plus and minus. Plus and minus, Knicks bench versus Cavs bench was plus 44 to negative 36. That's a huge swing when it comes to playing meaningful basketball. Depth is so key. Look at almost every single championship contender over the last 10 years. They have amazing bench depth, and they have good starters that can play good minutes with their bench. To me, without that, the Cavs might be out of luck in this series. I'm actually going to change my prediction on this one. I said I didn't have one at first. I am going Knicks in 6. Knicks in 6, and they're heading to the next round, where we're going to talk about a little later. Maybe they have a chance to maybe make some noise in that second round. But look, the storyline going forward is going to be, can Donovan Mitchell put a massive backpack on? To me, I don't think so. We're going next game, Kings versus Warriors. This was the most electric atmosphere in the entire first round. Now, was it the best game? No, I think that was Knicks versus Cavs. But Draymond Green put on an absolute defensive clinic against Domantas Sabonis, who shot 5 of 17. However, De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk went nuclear. They scored 70 points. They shot 22 of 26 from the free throw line. and the Kings beat the Warriors 126 to 123. Now, Andrew Wiggins, this is his first game back, and he looked really good from the floor, except for his three-point shooting. He was 1 of 8, but I think that will come around. I said at first Warriors in 5 with Wiggins. I'm switching that to Warriors in 6 with Wiggins, just because I think it's going to take him a couple more games to really get his legs under him. I'm still very confident that this Warriors team is going to advance to the next round. But look, the light the beam culture, I freaking love it. This is an awesome team. One of my fan favorites of a team that I'm not a fan of. So shout out to the Kings. Good job winning game 1. Let's see if you could do it in game 2. Moving on to the Sunday games, we had an absolute banger to start. Grizzlies versus Lakers. This was the best game of the Sunday slate. Ja Morant was doing Ja Morant things until in the third quarter, Anthony Davis took a charge-type position right underneath the basket, but right outside of the restricted zone. Ja Morant went to go over top of him, fell down, and it looks like he really, really messed up his right hand. He is questionable for game 2, but the Lakers had 6 guys, not just LeBron and AD, but 6 guys who played in superstar mode. Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, Vando, and D'Angelo Russell all did exactly what the Lakers brought them there to do, and that's play really good playoff basketball. LeBron and AD, if they just have to be LeBron and AD, they're perfect at doing that. Anything over that is a stretch considering AD's injury history and LeBron's age, but if this Lakers team can continue to play like this, even if Ja Morant comes back, I think the Lakers can easily win this series. I think I said Lakers in 7. For now, I'm going to stick with that. But depending on Ja Morant's health, that is very soon to change, basically. It could change whether or not he plays game 2. If the Grizzlies go back to Los Angeles down 0-2 without Ja Morant, that could be some trouble for the Grizzlies. So for now, I'm going to stick with Lakers in 7, but that's to be determined. TBD. Next up, probably the most disappointing game in terms of sadness in this playoff first round slate, Heat versus Bucks. The big thing, the big piece of news, Giannis went down on the same type play that Ja Morant went down against the Heat. It looks like he has a lower back contusion. Not a good sign for this Bucks team. They ended up losing 117 to 130 against the Heat. Jimmy Butler, man, I keep counting this guy out, thinking he doesn't have it left in the tank. Played 43 minutes, dropped 35, 11 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 steals. Just an absolute carry job from this guy. Could not ask for more when it comes to Jimmy Butler. Playoff Jimmy is a different Jimmy. I mean, it's like Alexander the Great is out on the court. If this continues, maybe even if Giannis comes back, the Heat can steal another game. I'm still riding with my pick of the Bucks to win the series, but without Giannis, it's going to be a whole hell of a lot more difficult. I might extend this game to 6 or 7, maybe. It's going to depend on if Giannis can play game 2. As of the time of this recording, he's questionable. So we're going to wait and see what happens with that. So disappointing for the Bucks, but so awesome to watch Jimmy Butler do his thing in the playoffs. Next in the Sunday slate, we had Suns versus Clippers. I loved this game. Kawhi Leonard, when he's fully healthy, is the best player in basketball. Now, I say Giannis is the best player in the NBA strictly because Kawhi Leonard is not healthy for probably 60% of the season. So he's not playing at the peak of his power. But when he is at the peak of his power, man, he is phenomenal. Best defensive stopper. He's always able to get a bucket. He dropped 38 in game 1 versus the Suns. Without Paul George, I did not think that the Clippers had a chance. They came out and stunned the Suns in game 1. And guess who played really poorly when you look at shooting statistics? Russell Westbrook. Everything else, though, he filled the stat sheet. He had 11 rebounds, 8 assists, blocks, steals. As a matter of fact, he was the reason that the Clippers beat the Suns. Let's get into that. Kawhi hit back-to-back three-pointers and then assisted on an Eric Gordon 3 to keep the Clippers ahead of the Suns. They were in the lead the entire fourth quarter, but it came down to the wire with less than 30 seconds. Devin Booker fouls Russell Westbrook. He's got 2 extremely clutch free throws to hit, knocks them both down. Then with 17 seconds left on the clock, Devin Booker drives on Russell Westbrook, goes in for a layup. Russell Westbrook swats it, then takes the ball before it can go out of bounds and throws it off of Devin Booker. Clippers ball. They take care of business. An awesome way to end that game. I'm so happy that I got to see Russ do that. He's gotten so much hate this year, but to see him get rewarded with all this love and attention for that game-winning play it's amazing. I love it for Russell Westbrook. Big fan of his determination throughout this entire season to see past all the hate and continue to play his game. Look, anybody that starts shooting 3 of 12, they're going to stop shooting. But not Russell Westbrook, and for good reasons. He believes in himself, and that's exactly why the Clippers were able to beat the Suns. I'm not going to make a prediction on this one now. I just don't know if I think that the Suns can do this. And the main reason is that there is an absolute bench gap. Kevin Durant, CP3, DeAndre Ayton all had plus in the plus minus. The bench all were in the negative. It's going to make a huge difference in the playoffs because they have no depth. I said this a few episodes ago, but I'm really doubling down on it now. I don't know if I could see the Suns winning this series, let alone another series against maybe the Nuggets. So for now, I'm leaving the series uncontested. Last but not least, we had the most disappointing game of the weekend, and it was probably the most likely to be disappointing, but disappointing nonetheless. Nuggets versus Timberwolves. I think the final score ended up being like 103 to 80, maybe 109 to 80. So just a horrible performance on really both teams. The Nuggets just played slightly better, and it was all about star power. Anthony Edwards didn't have an amazing game, and Karl Anthony Towns and Jokic combined for 25 points. 24 points maybe, but still, horrible performance. Both teams shot below 70% from the free throw line. Both teams shot below 45% from the field. There weren't a lot of turnovers, but just sloppy shooting all around. I think the Nuggets are a little rusty. They had a lot of their starters rest from the end of the season, and I think the Timberwolves are a little tired because they had to play in the play-in twice to get to where they are now. Maybe as we go further down the road, this series will get better, but for now, extremely disappointing. I'm still saying Nuggets in 5, maybe 6, but yeah, Nuggets in 5, that's my prediction. Let's talk about some takeaways that I had from these first couple of games in the playoffs. Look, there's a great product on the floor. Regardless of that Nuggets-Timberwolves game, great product on the floor. Lots of stars. There were a couple injuries, but I loved the environments that these teams got to play in. You usually don't see this kind of hype around the first round, so I'm enjoying that from a fan perspective and a media perspective. But look, one thing I want to add, get rid of the charge under the basket, expand the restriction zone, just get it out of the basketball game. We saw Embiid go down with that. He didn't get injured, but he still went down with that. Ja Morant got injured off of that, and Giannis got injured off of that in just the first game of the first round. I don't want to see that anymore in the playoffs. I know the NBA probably won't change it. I have to say something. There's no need for this kind of play in basketball. I get that we're all about, protecting defense and whatnot. Unnecessary. Just go up and contest the shot or get a charge elsewhere. Go get a charge somewhere else. Get this play out of basketball. That's all I'm going to say about that. Next up, I want to talk about, are the Knicks finals contenders? That Knicks team that I saw versus the Cavaliers had star power in Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, good starters in Grimes, Robinson, and then really good depth with Josh Hart and Emmanuel Quickley. I'm a big fan of this Knicks team. I'm going to need them to really step up in games 2 and 3 to really take control of this series if I want to consider them finals contenders. But with Giannis being out for the Bucks, we could easily see them get to the conference finals. I'm not a huge hype guy around Knicks basketball. I'm all the way down here in Louisiana. But still, the Knicks possible finals contenders, I'm putting y'all on notice. It's a little early, but I still want to get it out there. All right, now let's get into some news. First up, Paul George. We found out he is out for the entire series versus the Suns. I'm not sure it's going to make that big of a difference. I'm still riding Suns in 6 for now. I think I said earlier that I might not be. While I'm recording this podcast, I'm like, maybe. I'm a fan of the Suns just for their starting lineup, just for their superstars. And I think Paul George being out is going to make the difference. So I think I'm going to ride with Suns in 6. Next up, we've got Zion getting exposed for his lack of conditioning. David Griffin and CJ McCollum with the Pelicans organization both kind of came out and hinted that some players weren't right mentally, physically, and they didn't have the proper mindset with conditioning. I think that's all pointing to Zion. The question is, what do you do with him? Do you trade him? Do you let him go? Do you keep him? To me, you have to keep him. No trade value is equal to what you could get with Zion being healthy, and nothing that you can do to let him go would ever equal the amount of talent, the superstardom, everything that he brings to New Orleans. There's no equivalent for that unless you were trading for LeBron, but that's obviously not going to happen. The Pelicans have just got to get it right with Zion. I cannot stress that enough. If he's healthy, I think he could be a top 10 player easily. The Pelicans are in win now mode. Get Zion right. That's all I've got to say. I'm not putting it all on Zion. The organization has to do a better job of holding him accountable. If they can't do that, then this entire career of his just goes down as one of the biggest flops in history. He was one of the biggest prospects coming into the draft, like LeBron James, and his career has amounted to nothing so far, and I wouldn't put it all on him. Zion's got to get conditioning. The Pelicans have to hold him accountable. That's all I've got to say about that. Last but not least, in NBA/college basketball news, so frustrating to see this. Mikey Williams, who was one of the most touted high school prospects, has been arrested on an assault with a deadly weapon charge. Guys, get the guns out of these star players' hands. I'm not talking about a culture issue or anything else like that, but we had Brandon Miller, Mikey Williams, John Morant, that player from New Mexico State. All of these guys have gun issues in the past 3 months. I can't even imagine what it's like to have to handle that PR, what it's like to have to go into court like that. All I know is if all 4 of these players had a chance to go back and redo it, you can guarantee that they would. That kind of lifestyle is not what makes NBA talent. That kind of lifestyle is not what the NBA is about. And I think that is what is the main focus here. We've got to make sure that these people are set up to succeed. These star players, they have to be set up to succeed. The people around them have to be entrusted to be responsible for their actions. And I am not seeing that with these star players. Now, if that comes out to be some bigger issue, then that is a conversation that we will 1000% have on this podcast. But for now, get the guns out of these superstars' hands. Next up, we're talking Jalen Hurts signing a 5-year, $255 million deal. 3 points I want to make about this. Number one, the owners have done the best job that they could. I'm not supporting this. I am against this. But they have done a phenomenal job in making sure that the Deshaun Watson contract is the exception to the rule and not the rule. Kyler Murray didn't guarantee dollars. Jalen Hurts is not getting guaranteed dollars. And Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert probably won't get guaranteed dollars. Now look, Jalen Hurts' contract is $179 million guaranteed. That means that $76 million of the $255 is not guaranteed. That's specifically what I'm talking about here. That being said, second point I want to make, Lamar Jackson is now searching for a unicorn. All reports say he's looking for a fully guaranteed contract. I don't think it exists in any NFL organization, so he has got to have a change of mindset here. I know that's what he wants, but he could end up getting blackballed from the NFL if he doesn't stop and just take the money that probably the Ravens are offering him. Third point I want to make, this is a great extension for Jalen Hurts. This is a great extension for the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's talk about it. Jalen Hurts is a good contract for him. That's a hell of a lot of money. That's 5 years of security. All he has to do is play well, and he gets the full $255. For the Eagles, if Jalen Hurts turns out to be a superstar, you're paying him good money now, and it'll be great money in 5 years because the cap is going to shoot through the roof, and you're not going to be paying him near as much as you think you are right this second. It's also good for the Eagles because if Jalen Hurts doesn't turn out to be that guy, you save $76 million in guaranteed money. I'm a huge fan of this contract for both sides. Jalen Hurts, congratulations. You are now a $255 million heir. Awesome. Last but not least in the news, before we get to this awesome segment, we are talking Texas Longhorns football. Quinn Ewers, the quarterback at Texas for last year, won the starting job at the spring game, according to his head coach, Steve Sarkisian. He played phenomenal. Look, the reason that he is going to be the starter next year is because he has star potential and because he has college experience. Arch Manning didn't play terribly. He went 5 of 13 on the field, but he didn't make any bad passes. He also didn't make any good passes. He is just a prospect that needs to be developed. He's only a freshman. He's not going to be Peyton Manning right off the start. So I am a big fan of Quinn Ewers taking the reins right now. He gets all of the media attention, takes the pressure off of Arch Manning. He can just focus on being good at football in the position that he's in. Awesome to do this early on in the season for Texas. Steve Sarkisian made the right call here. Last but not least, we are talking Plizont's locks. I have not done this in forever, hardly on the video podcast. We're going to get into it today. This is my favorite part of the show. This is what I eat, sleep, and breathe. First up, let's get into it. We're talking today and tomorrow's games. Philadelphia 76ers -10 and over 213. This is going to be a shootout, and I think it's going to be thanks to Seth Curry, who I think is going to go for 20-plus points tonight. I think this 76ers team is going to easily handle that, though, thanks to Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, and Tobias Harris shooting it from 3 like they did in Game 1. This is an easy route for the 76ers. I think this game is going to be handled very early on. Final score, 126-110. 76ers take it. Next up, Golden State -1.5. Not talking over-under, just the spread. As time goes by, Wiggins is just going to get better and better. And the question is De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk going to go for 70? It's highly doubtful. So I am riding with the Warriors to win by at least 2. I'm a fan of this Warriors team, obviously, personally, but the Warriors are easily going to get this done. They only lost by 3, and Wiggins is getting better, like I said. Warriors -1.5. Next up, we're talking Boston Celtics on the Tuesday slate of games, under 229. I think that the Celtics are just going to put a masterclass of defense on the Hawks, specifically Trae Young. And the Celtics don't have like this, fire offense. They're a good offense, but they're not phenomenal. Final score for that game, I think it's probably going to be 109-96. I'm not going to mess with the spread, but I definitely think this game goes under 229. Next up, we've got Knicks. I'm calling the over 214, and I'm saying Knicks +5. The big factor behind both of these decisions is I think Donovan Mitchell is going for 40-plus points, but I think that the Cavs bench is going to hinder his performance in terms of whether or not it can be a win. I think that the Knicks are really prepared for a playoff push, unlike the rest of the Cavaliers. But I do think it's going to be a shootout. Darius Garland's probably going to shoot it well in his second home debut in the playoffs. But I am riding with the Knicks +5. Not guaranteeing a win, but I'm definitely guaranteeing this game is going to be extremely close and come down to the wire. Last but not least, we're talking Los Angeles Clippers over 222.5. Russell Westbrook shot 3 of 19 from the field in Game 1, and that game went to 225. I think that Russell Westbrook, regardless of his volatile shooting, is going to shoot a little bit better than 3 of 19. This Clippers team, I do think, can pull off the upset. I'm not going to talk about that, though. We're just talking over-under. I definitely think this game is going to be somewhere in the exact same range of the 110s. And to me, 222.5 is an easy over to hit for both teams. They have awesome offenses. They have good defenses, but they're not great, especially the Suns. 222.5 for the over. I'm slamming it. And that, my friends, is going to do it for this episode of Plizont's podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.